My Life in Letters. We are back, another episode, and we're really honored and excited to have this woman on the phone today, calling in from Brooklyn, New York. Today, we have Diva from VIC TPA crew, Lady Diva, as she's known by many people. How you doing?
I'm doing good today. How are you?
Doing really, really well. And it's special to have you on so many different levels. One, all of the contributions you made to the New York City graph scene. Two, we're looking for women on this show. It's like unbelievable. And we'll get to this, I think, a little bit later in the interview. It's kind of almost sad or alarming how few women are out there really writing, and then also how few of them we've gotten onto the show. And I think it's important, right, that we tell the story of women graffiti writers in this game because of the experience that you went through. And speaking of experience, we also, many of us know that you're battling an illness right now, and we're going to touch on that in the interview as well. So all those reasons, we thank you so much for being here.
Well, I appreciate you even asking me to be on, so thank you very much.
Yeah, it's exciting. I like to go pre-graph, pre-graffiti if we can. I wonder if you have a memory early on in your childhood about letters, it could be anything, comic books or whatever it may be. In fact, I just interviewed King 157. He said the yellow pages was where they used to look to find letter styles back in the 80s.
That's interesting.
I know. And he grew up in San Jose, California. I just thought that was a wild story. How about you? Something early on that got you interested in making letters?
I don't know. I don't recall anything specific. I just know that I, from a very early age, would write on things. Like if you look at old family photo albums, I couldn't have been more than 5 or 6, and I would write my initials on the photo album.
Ah, yeah.
I was always just writing on things, carving in my desk, which would drive my mother absolutely insane. So I don't know where it came from, but I always just felt this need to write on my stuff.
And you told me before that you were born in Bushwick, Brooklyn. Will you share with us what year you were born?
Yes, I was born in 1970.
And in 1970 in Bushwick, I mean, what a place Bushwick in the 70s must have been. I'm really interested, or I'd like to ask you, do you have a memory from early life seeing marks on walls, like seeing any kind of tags on walls? And if so, what might that first memory of graffiti be for you?
I would probably say I was in my early teens, maybe 12 or 13, when I finally started noticing graffiti around the neighborhood. And that was my first things that I noticed was TM and LE. And I noticed TM because it was my initials, which I'd been writing on the family photo albums for years.
Right.
And that's what caught my eye, was just local writers that were catching tags on the backs of signs. But I was probably about 12 or 13. And so at that point, already living in Ridgewood. Oh,
you went to Ridgewood. Okay. And so TM and LE, these are two different writers from the Bushwick
They're
Ridgewood.
Two different writers. They happen to be brothers. They happen to also be VIC crew members, which at the time I knew nothing about crews. I knew nothing about anything. I just knew I enjoyed writing on stuff. And then I'd be walking to school, and I was seeing my initials written on the back of like signs.
That's so
cool. Which caught my attention.
Wow. And then it turns out that they're VIC crew, which you get into years later. Wow. And, you know, I often wonder if you said you were 12 or 13 when you first really took notice. I mean, for many other years as a child, you were walking past streets that were just bombed out with tags. And I presume that
taking the train that was covered. Yeah. And it really, it had no effect on me until, like I said, early teens.
So it was just sort of background noise or something in the background as you were a kid before that, 12, 13?
Yeah, I really didn't pay much attention. Then again, Not For Nothing, which sounds a little messed up. Even as an adult or later on in my career, I still don't pay a lot of attention to what other people are doing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It really has to be either really big, really spectacular, or really just up everywhere that I can't avoid it. Mm-hmm. But I really am just self-absorbed, and I really don't see much.
And so then, but you did see these TM and LE tags.
I did. I couldn't help it.
What do you think was like as a 12 or 13-year-old, can you remember what your understanding of these letters on walls and on signs was?
I actually had no understanding. Uh-huh. It wasn't until I moved to a different portion of Ridgewood where I was exposed more to trains, and I started hanging out with like DG and Kaz, who were already writing. and they would be going to put me up, and I'm like, I don't understand. Just hand me the marker. I can write my own name. And that's when I realized that like there was a culture and what was going on. Before that, I had no comprehension as to what they were doing writing on shit.
And I also wonder about like you being in New York, seeing graph on walls. Were you exposed yet to graph on screen or in books or anything like that? Because you're mentioning this is 82, 83. So for instance, Style Wars was already out. Had you had access to a film like Style Wars before?
I did. I saw Style Wars. It was probably, I want to say the first time I saw Style Wars was probably 84.
Oh, okay. Okay. And that was also the year that you attribute to starting to do graffiti for the first time. But I'm curious about how you met a guy like DG, rest in peace.
Something, that's a good question. I don't remember.
Well, now
I really don't remember. He was just a local, I had known his sister, who was more my age. DG was a year younger than me. Mm-hmm. I had known his sister. I don't really remember. I'm assuming it was through her.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd always seen him around the neighborhood, and then, I don't know, we started talking, and they said, and then seeing them, like, all of a sudden busting out markers and writing on shit, and I was like, wow, this is pretty amazing.
And so did you know his sister from the neighborhood or from school?
From the neighborhood.
Okay. And so DG's older sister, which most likely that's your connection. When did you first, was it around that same time, 82 or 83, that you saw him catching tags? Because you said that he said, oh, let me put your name up. And I also know that you started writing tabs before you started writing Diva.
I did have a tag before that, and I will not tell anyone what it was.
Ah, come on, really?
To tell anybody what it was. It was a horrible tag. I didn't want people to know I was a girl. It was a very manly tag. I refused. I won't even tell Peek. He keeps getting it wrong, and I just go, keep going with that one, because that's better than what I was doing. Even before meeting them, I did at some point. They weren't the first times I was actually catching tags. I was catching tags for like a local girl who, again, I didn't understand what I was doing. But after seeing Ellie and TM writing on the backs of poles, I started going to school with a marker and writing on the backs of shit.
Okay.
But they still didn't comprehend it.
So you're not going to share with us this horrible masculine name.
No, I will not.
So I'm just going to pretend, I'm going to just say it was probably something like Burly or Grizzly. Okay, listen. So let's say you have this.
You can go with anything you want. I guarantee anything you say will be better than what it was.
Okay, cool. So you have this tag. Tell me about that first tag then. You don't have to tell me about the name, but like what made you choose that kind of a tag, and what did you think you were going to do with it?
I had no thought. I still to this day have no thought on what I'm doing. I didn't realize that I had any impact on anybody. I just do it to do it.
So you're kind of living off instinct at that time, and maybe still are. Okay.
I don't put much thought into anything. I'm very, it's just I like seeing my name.
Nice.
I like painting.
Okay.
But I really don't give it much thought.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and so then here, I'm curious about like first of all, you won't tell us the name, but you did say you were putting up tags. Were you using a marker early on?
Yeah. Yes.
What kind of markers were you getting your hands on, and do you remember how you acquired those things?
I would assume I was getting my mommy to buy them for me.
Nice.
And telling her that I had to do little art projects. So I'm assuming mommy was buying them at that point.
And this is the early 80s. Were you able to access kind of nice markers? Like, were you getting your hands on?
No, I was there with crappy markers. I hadn't reached that level of pilots yet and mops and all that.
So maybe you had a Marks a Lot or something.
I probably had like a Sharpie. Like it was probably just crappy, horrible markers.
And where were you putting up those first tags?
My first tag that I remember outside was on a wood fence across the street from Grover Cleveland High School. And
so Grover Cleveland and Ridgewood, you do a tag. You're not going to tell us the name, but you did it with a cheap, like a Sharpie or something on this wooden fence.
Yeah, it was some crappy marker. Tag was probably horrible. Nobody probably ever noticed it.
Yeah. What about the style? And I'm sure there was a little lack of style. However, I'm curious who you were looking at to maybe bite style or get influence from in those early days.
The early days, I really wasn't influenced by anybody.
Not even the TM or the LE tags?
No. Style-wise, no.
Okay.
I think as I got older, when I started getting into piecing, more like, the end of 85, then I started actually paying attention to what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Before then, I was just writing my name.
Okay.
Didn't think about hand style, didn't think about progression, didn't think where this was going. It was probably like late 85. And then I started like looking at the trains.
Yeah.
And even then, and I still to this day, I was just chopping the shit out of peak pieces. I can cut the stem off a P and make it into a D. He did a heavy metal piece on the mill that I could change any one of those letters into a letter that I needed. So it wasn't until like 85 that I actually started paying attention to style.
But in, was it 84 that you did that first tag on the fence?
I would say 83, 84 first tag.
Mm-hmm.
Started actually trying to do pieces was like more like the end of 84, 85.
Okay. And you had also mentioned that, did you say you were going out tagging with another girl from the neighborhood?
Yes, I was. Her brother was a writer. He wrote, if I'm not mistaken, TKJ.
Mm. And
who I didn't hear of. And again, didn't know what I was doing. Was walking to school with the marker and just writing things, and she would write her name. I don't even remember what her name was.
Well, can you tell us a little bit, for those of us who weren't in New York in 82, 83, could you just spend a couple minutes or a minute, whatever, painting a picture of sort of what the scene was like in Ridgewood, Brooklyn, Ridgewood, Queens area at that time, and how graffiti was sort of saturating everything? What was it like?
It was just starting out. I mean, it was a clean, I don't want to say upper class neighborhood, but it was a clean, primarily white area. There wasn't much around. It had been confined to the trains to that point. And then it started trickling out, and, the more, the longer it went on, the more you had like OEs and P13s that were like some of the first people that were actually hitting the streets. And then you had, Vic crew that was bombing from coming out of the yard, and you'd see the trail going back to their houses. But before that, it was just a pretty much clean neighborhood. And where I originally was in Ridgewood, I was more like Ridgewood Maspeth. So I wasn't exposed to trains as much.
Because you were further
It wasn't until I moved over to Fresh Pond Road and then had the M yard was literally in my backyard.
What year did you move to Fresh Pond?
I want to say 84.
Okay, so it's all happening around the same time.
Everything happened. It happened very quickly.
Of course, yeah. And, we've heard this from a lot of other interviewees that we've talked to. And, of course, it's like when you're a kid, also time, it can sometimes go really slow. But when we think back on it, it can seem like everything happened really, really fast, It
does.
Okay, and so for you, that progression also of going from tags to larger scale pieces, that seemed to happen pretty fast.
It was, yeah.
But
rapid pace.
Can you talk a little bit though before we get to piecing about tagging in 83, 84? Did you take it seriously?
That's a hard question. I would say originally no, and then once I saw that there was a culture and that there was I think style was put over the top. Like, wow, for something that you love doing, to somebody that has nothing going on in their lives, I could be on TV. They could be a movie. Then you had books, and I think it opened up this whole thing where, wow, you can actually be known for this. So I think I started taking it a little bit more serious at that point.
So you wanted some fame. That's you were.
I'm a fame hoe.
Okay. And then where do you think that came from? Was that, I've heard from some people that New York was so big and maybe our voices were so small, yet when we had a marker or a can or doing a train, all of a sudden you got in the spotlight a little bit more and your voice was highlighted some more. Was that true for you?
Well, I think that, and just upbringing in general. I was an only child. I think my mother worked a lot of hours, and I think I was just lacking a little bit of attention. And all of a sudden, by doing this, I was getting this attention.
Okay.
So I think it was more an attention thing. And then when I saw, wow, I can actually get attention from a broader audience, and this is actually big, it just really sunk in. But I think it was just me craving attention.
Do you remember how you first saw Style Wars? Did you go to a movie theater to see it?
No, I actually saw it at a friend's house. I think it was on Channel 13 at the time.
Ah, okay.
He wrote GM, and I think I saw it at his house.
What was your, like, besides, oh, wow, here's this culture, oh, maybe I could get fame, what else were your thoughts on seeing this, like, really kind of beautiful film that really highlights a lot of people that really weren't living that far away from you? What was that like?
I think that was pretty much it for me, though. I think everything I see, which sounds a little messed up, always relates back to me and how am I going to benefit from it. It's a little messed up.
So you saw it and you said, how can I get some of that? How can that serve me?
Yes.
Okay.
I think so.
Hey, and I don't think that's messed up. And thank you for being honest. I think that's actually just very real. And you were a kid. You were 13. You know, the center of the universe is right there in the mirror. So I think it's completely normal to be that way.
That sounds great. But how do we explain that now at 46? When I still have the same mentality.
We're not going to try to explain that, I think.
Yeah, that's a bit of a problem. So I haven't mentally grown much since then.
Listen, that's okay. You got a lot of time to continue to grow. So listen, what I'm curious about also was you mentioned meeting up with DG. I think a lot of people are going to want to hear some DG stories, and I think it'd be really interesting to hear some of the early memories that you had of meeting up with DG and him putting up tags. What was that guy like? What was his vibe like in the early 80s?
He was always the same guy. He was just always really funny, always cracking jokes, always making people laugh. He had the laugh of a joker that he would just, laugh about something you didn't even think was funny. And as soon as he started laughing, you're cackling along with him. And he would laugh and do this, like, I don't know how to explain it. It was like this Eddie Munster, like, stomping his feet then. So he was just a really funny guy.
And it sounds like he was kind of infectious. Like his laugh made you laugh, even if it wasn't that funny.
Oh, my God. He had that effect on everybody. And even though people hated each other throughout his entire career, he was cool with everybody.
Yeah.
So he never got involved in, like, I can't say he didn't get involved. He was always trying to be the peacemaker, but he really was just, it didn't matter. I hated you. He was cool with everybody.
And in 83, do you remember, or 84, whenever you first met, was his style, was it also very young and in its infancy, or did he have hands like early on? He
was actually pretty talented for someone his age. So of all the kids in our little group, he was the most talented and was the youngest. There was a lot of people that were older, and he was a natural.
And this group you're talking about, I mean, that wasn't a graffiti crew yet. It was friends, right? And you guys just happened to be marking stuff.
Pretty much, yes. Around the same time, though. I mean, DG and I got put down with Vic Crew about the same time.
Was that 84?
I got put down, I think it was more like 85.
Let's talk a little bit also about how you progressed into your doing some first pieces. Were you an artistic kid? Did you have books? Were you drawing way before all of this as a child?
Not really. My biggest thing was drawing of the little house with the smokestack or the little teacup. So no, I really wasn't an artist, no. And I still to this day don't consider myself an artist.
Oh, really?
I mean, I can draw to some degree, and I can paint, which is why there's times I look at shit and I'm like, wow, I actually did that. And I'm still surprised that, like, I actually did that, because I don't think I'm very artistic.
But when you started noticing, because you said you moved to Fresh Pond Road, and you were right near the M Yard, so you started to get a chance to see throwies and pieces that were being put on transit. Did you start drawing at that time to try to create your own
and I started
letters?
trying to do pieces, yeah.
And
as soon as I saw, like, these tags aren't cutting it, you got to go bigger, this is where what everyone else is doing, then I started trying to do pieces and came up on my throwies, and I was doing horrible, like, TV pieces, which were short for tabs. They were just bad. I post them every once in a while, but they're just horribly bad.
But also,
and I was so proud of them.
Yeah, you were proud of exactly, because and actually you didn't know that they were so bad. And really, I think
I thought they were fabulous.
Yes, and
I was running around stealing film to get the photos developed, and now years later, I'm like, oh my God, what was I thinking?
Well, I think it's probably pretty cool that you have all that stuff because then you can see the progression. And I'm curious about that TZ. So when did you make a transition away from that horrible masculine name that you won't tell us into writing tabs? When did that happen? 84?
84, 85.
And what was that?
It's so hard to tell looking back.
Yep.
I would say more like 85. 85 was the first year that I actually started going to the yard and trying to do little panel pieces and catching tags. And so I would say 85 was when I finally started hitting trains.
And that was at what yard did you go into the first
time?
That
was the M yard.
The M, yeah. And who took you in? Or did you go solo?
The first time I went in, I want to say, I have such a bad memory. I want to say he wrote SK. And he was just, again, a local toy. Wasn't good. Went in, first time in, got chased. Wasn't even by cops. There was another writer in the yard who was known for just, robbing people. And they were like, we got to get out of here. So my first experience, I had to climb a tree and up over the rooftops and down the fire escapes. So it was pretty, and I'm afraid of heights. So it was quite the fucking experience the first time going in.
Yeah, that must have been pretty wild. What were some of your other feelings or emotions when you got out of the yard? Was it exciting or were you?
It was exciting. Yeah. It was just overwhelming. And then when I hooked up with Pete, that was a different experience because they were the ones running the yard. They were the ones that you were running from when you were in the yard. So going in with him was just totally different. It was just a big party, showing up with food and snacks and hanging out in the work bum train and hanging out. There was a little house that had heat in it and spending the night there. And it was just a totally different environment. And then seeing other people, the ones running when they realized who was in the yard. And then it was like, wow, this is great being on top. So I like that position much better.
I'm sure.
I see people running from me rather than me having to run scared.
Did you, what did you bring into the yard that first night with SK? Did you have a bag of cans? And if so, where'd you get all your paint from?
We probably went in there with 2 or 3 cans.
Yeah.
It was probably very pathetic. And I'm assuming they got the paint at that point.
Okay, so you weren't racking or getting your own paint
No,
yet.
I didn't start racking any paint till more like 85. And even then, I was pretty lucky. That was the one good thing about being a female was that everyone else was just providing me with shit.
And did you ever go back into the train yards with SK?
No, I think that was pretty much the only time.
Yeah. And then when was your next excursion into a yard where you actually got to do a panel? Was it before you met Peak or was it with those guys?
It was with those guys.
Okay. And go ahead.
I think it was, I'm pretty sure it was with them. I might have went in with DG a couple of times in Kaz, but again, they were very small. And you don't realize how big a train is, especially when you're that. I'm short now. I was even shorter then. You don't realize, doing a panel piece, it's hard. There's a height issue there. So I really wasn't being very significant.
Could you do anything to combat that? Did you ever bring in a milk crate?
No, it wasn't until I hooked up with Peak that I realized you got to bring your milk crate in.
Yeah,
you need a little booster. So I was very naive to the whole thing.
So how did you meet Peak then, and when did you meet him?
I met him in 85. I was basically cutting out of school, and I saw. I'll give you the quick history. Peak was the guy who in the neighborhood, when kids saw him, he would rob them. They just knew if you had markers on you, you had paint, you saw him, you emptied your shit. So the crew of people that I was hanging out with the exception of DG, who Peak also knew through his sister, he was robbing all these kids. So they would just be like, there's Peak, and they would scatter. And everyone would run. So I never knew the face with the name. And I was cutting out of school one day, and I just saw this cute guy walking down the block, was checking him out, turned around, walked into a fucking pole. Very embarrassing. Saw where the house he went into, and he used to sit in his window with binoculars watching the trains from his house. And I just kept cutting out of school and basically loitering on his corner. And one day I finally got the nerve up and I wrote a note. And again, I was 14. Think you're cute. Here's my number. Left it on his doorstep, walked away, and I ran into a friend of mine. He said, hey, I'm hooking up with a friend. We're going to go buy some weed. You want to take a walk? Okay. So I'm walking, and I end up now realizing we're going close to this guy's house, and ended up on his doorstep. He came out. There's the note. There I am standing there. And I was like, oh, so embarrassing. Then he started looking through my book and realized I had tags all over it. Who did this? Who did that? Well, that's me. And it took off from there.
Was it immediate? Like you said, it took off from there. Did he take you under his wing? Did he start to kind of mentor you and show you how to make letters and how to draw?
A little bit. I think at that point it was more just more of a relationship than a graph thing.
Yeah.
That then progressed into more of a graph thing. Yeah, I've been dating him now since 1985.
And you guys are still together now?
We are still together now. We're married 27 years.
That's amazing. Congratulations. That's a fantastic story. So, as embarrassing as it was to write that letter, it seemed to pan out pretty well for you. So then Pete took you into the yard, and this is around 85, you said. So, and you explained, explained in pretty great detail how different it was. What'd you guys do the first time you went into a yard? And did you go into the M, or were you in a different yard?
We did go to the M yard. We ended up doing a Pete Cabs whole car with a clover green fill-in with a pastel aqua outline, which we did not get photos of.
Wow.
20 years later, I mentioned it to somebody. Did this whole car, would love to see photos. And it turned out that Revs had the photo. Bad photo on a 110, but I actually have the photo.
I'm kind of blown away that the first thing you did was a whole car with Peak. So,
yeah.
And you're talking, you guys did top to bottom, end to end, or just end to end?
Windows down.
Wow. And so
it wasn't top to bottom, windows down, end to end.
And were they blocks, or were they, what kind of style were these letters at the time?
They were pretty much just bubble letters.
Okay. Wow.
So he basically dropped the sketch. I helped fill in. I caught the tags inside, which you could tell, because I felt this need to have people know it really was me. Because I was over fucking joyed.
Yeah.
Because I was catching full Tabitha tags in my piece.
Leaving the yard that night, you must have been on cloud 9, right?
Oh my God, yeah. It was a whole new, when are we going back? And then I did take part. He did a Vandals in Control call we did together. And I had done a couple of panel pieces that he would be doing things that I would just go down, kick it down over there, go do your toy shit over there. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was an amazing experience. And
the train ran because, like you said, Revs caught a flick, but you guys never caught any photos. I
didn't catch a photo. I did get lucky though that we were hanging out in the Oval one day shortly after we did it, and the train was there and stopped and was sitting there, so everyone was like, holy shit, so everyone got to see it.
Dope.
Who also got to see it was Pete technically had a girlfriend at the time.
Oops.
And the train stopped on Forest Avenue one day, and his girlfriend's friend was like, what's that up there? And so he kind of got a little busted there.
But you guys were you guys just hanging out as friends early on?
No, we were dating.
Okay.
He was just cheating on his girlfriend. No. Okay. I started out the other woman and just wore him out.
Nice. So then how did 85 kind of persist? Like were you all about transit after that night, or were you guys focusing on streets as well?
Both.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty much both at that point.
Was it evenly split, or would you say one took more of your time and focus?
I would say streets were. I got to streets more. Mm-hmm. I mean, for me to get out of the house in the middle of the night at that age,
yeah.
My gimmick was I would give my grandmother a phone number to a phone booth and say I was staying at a friend's house and stand by the phone booth till 11:30, 12 o'clock and hope that she'd call by then, and then go to the train yard and go home in the morning and say I was sleeping at a friend's house.
That's an amazing
I was young,
story.
so it was hard for me to pull all-nighters.
Did that work though? Did Grandma call the phone booth?
No, I got caught. I was punished for 3 weeks.
Okay. And yeah, that brings my next question was, when would you guys go into the yards to do an end-to-end like that? What time would you go in?
It was late. It was, 11:30, 12 o'clock.
Mm-hmm. And it also...
well past my curfew.
Sure. And Peak was already established, and you said that he was basically running the yard. He was running the streets. And that must have given you a lot of confidence as well when you were in there, that you weren't just going to get bagged or rolled on. Mm-hmm.
It gave me a lot of confidence there. It also, with, the local kids, gave me a lot of credibility.
Yeah.
Instantly.
Sure.
Unfortunately, which were all females, and in this case it was true, you're sleeping with them, of course you're getting fame. But I was never one of those people that was like, do my shit for me.
Mm-hmm.
I was up from the get-go. I'd rather it be really ugly and really toy. I know I did it myself, because I get no rush from it at all if you're putting me up.
Then 85 into 86. You also said that Peak put you down into Vic crew. How long were you hanging out with him before he put you, and you said you and DG got in at the same time?
About the same time. I want to say maybe 5-6 months.
Mm-hmm. And so it
wasn't overnight.
Do you think that Peak just wanted to see that you were willing to put in work and you were going to stay with it?
You know something? I have to ask him. Yeah. I don't know what he goes on in that man's head even to this day.
Well, so then you get put down in Vic crew, and that must have been, what was that experience like for you?
To me, it was pretty amazing. I mean, it was a known crew. Other people in Ridgewood, they had a crew called Vic Juniors, which was younger kids that they basically just started a lower level crew. So for me to actually be in the actual crew was pretty substantial. And then having PG put me down with TPA at the time was, over the top substantial.
How did you make that connection with PG, also rest in peace?
I met him through Peak. Took me down to Bushwick, climbed the 5 flights of stairs to get up there, huffing and puffing to get up the stairs. And I was a little nervous about meeting him because he was actually very close with Peak's ex-girlfriend. And I just thought, this guy's going to hate me. And instantly just hit it off.
So then how did the rest, can we just progress a little bit in 85 or so? Was it 85 you got put into TPA?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So now you're Tabs Vic, Tabs TPA, like a lot of credibility, rolling with these guys that are like really, really doing it. Were there other women in either crew at the time?
Yes and no. I had girls in the neighborhood that it was just easier for me to get out of my house if I was hanging out with other females. Mm-hmm. So I would try to spur up other girls to do shit like, oh, I'm writing on this, why don't you write on this? But they never amounted to anything, never progressed past tags, really had no desire. It was more like me peer pressuring them into it.
Okay, but so you were like one of the main women in that crew. Did any other real writers of note, women writers of note, get into the crews?
Yes, Peaks. Well, he had his girlfriend before me, Diz, also could do a piece. So she would also, she could paint.
Did you ever paint with Diz?
No, we used to just occasionally beat the crap out of each other.
Yeah, so there was static there.
Together, no.
Okay. I know also that you took like a break eventually, but how did 85, 86, what did it look like for you? Because you're 16 years old. I mean, we know that you're like, a lot of kids are in school and you have other things on your mind. Was graffiti a daily operation for you now at 15, 16?
It was.
Yeah.
And I wasn't, and school was not a priority. Mm-hmm. And then I pretty much dropped out or played hooky on a consistent basis to the point where I never went, probably from like the 7th grade.
Mm-hmm. But so then did you just go all in on graph every day, in 86? And if so, were you venturing outside of that M yard and going to other layups or other spots? No. I
never ventured into other yards or tunnels at that point. Biggest thing was like just riding the trains and looking at other people's shit.
And can you talk about that? Can you talk about, I know that you had said that at times, like you really weren't noticing people, maybe even you still don't today, but who else were you noticing around 86 besides your crew that you could maybe cite as influencing your style?
The only walls I can really, off the top of my head remember, but the only other wall I noticed was the Heck and Tab handball court, which was in Williamsburg. Mm-hmm. And again, that relates back to, it was my name in my head, so I had an interest in it. And Lee was doing handball courts back then in Williamsburg. So it was really, again, they were spectacular works of art that you couldn't help but notice.
And were you taking influence from those? Were you getting ideas and trying to do something similar with your work?
Not really. Even now, I try not to really overlook at other people's stuff because I think we are so easily influenced.
Yeah. But
you think it's your idea, but that seed got planted by something else.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, but you had mentioned Peak and how you would, I think you said chopping. You would chop some of his letters to work on your own.
I still do it to this day.
Yeah, I think you have a right to do that. That's your husband. And so how would that work? Would you look at his P, you would chop it up a little bit, turn it into a D? Would you ever work with Peak on your letters on paper?
No, not back then. Now, even now, he'll look at a sketch and then go, I would do this or I might do that. And even that, he teaches me the tough love thing. So normally he'll just look at what I do and he's like, what are you thinking? Like, really, you're going to do that? You don't let people see that? And then I have to go back and rethink it. So even now, his way of teaching me is not really to show me, which even when he tries, I'm very pig-headed and very difficult. And we've had many fights where he tries to give me input and I just resist it.
That's funny. It's amazing.
So I'd rather steal from you what I like, but not have you tell me what to do. And
that's just how he's always been with you, and you're good with it. And I mean, I wonder if that's even made you a stronger person because you had to learn stuff on your own. He wouldn't just hand you everything.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, some writers, we recently saw that other writers that he had mentored in the past actually held hostility. He's just very sarcastic. He means nothing by it. But will come over and be like, hey, what are you doing? You making mud pies over there? Because you should just as a runny mess. And some people take it offensive and hold a grudge, whereas I know his sense of humor and I know where his heart is. So for me, it's just funny.
Sure. Yeah. So then let's keep going on your timeline. What was 87 like for you? Now you're in these crews, which probably got pretty deep by about 86, 87, right? TPA and Vic crew.
86, 87. Unfortunately, the MTA, you had all these Style Wars guys who meant well, but they were giving up way too much information. They were telling the authorities how shit was being done, how to eradicate it without realizing that they were telling it. And basically, them taking it so much into the limelight, they fucked it up. And now they started putting fences up. They started raiding the yards more. It just became a whole different experience.
Yeah. And did you get bagged? Did you get caught because of maybe information?
I've never been arrested for graffiti.
Hey, look at you. Good on you. But you had mentioned getting chased out of the trains, or at least you had that kid was going to jack you guys.
Yes.
Did you get chased out?
I've been chased by writers. I've had close calls with police. I've done things with Stonia, and I just posted the photo recently. We did a roller in probably 98, broad daylight. We were doing a roller. The blue and whites pull up right in back of us on the side street. They're watching us do it. We're looking at each other like, all right, if we walk away now, we're definitely getting arrested.
Yeah.
Let's just keep painting. They leave, come back. Now they're parked right in back of us. We're like, fuck, this is it. We're getting arrested. And I don't know if they got another call or what happened, and they just drove away.
So maybe you're charmed.
So I've had a lot of close calls.
Yeah.
Close calls with the police, but have never been arrested.
Okay, but you did say that around that time, 86, 87, the MTA, they just got hip to everything because a lot of people were now giving up info.
They figured out, they started buffing the trains. Trains weren't lasting.
Yeah.
They started really just cracking down.
Yeah.
And it just made it, uncomfortably dangerous at that point.
Was it Dinkins? Was he the mayor at that time?
No, it was Koch.
It was still Koch. Okay. And so, he had done an all-out kind of war against the trains, cleaning them up, and against the writers. And you guys must have felt that, right? So you're hearing that now they know stuff. You're seeing the fences put up. Did that change your approach to now graph? Because you're like, well,
yeah, definitely.
Were you not going into the yards?
I'm in on it, but I wasn't looking to get arrested. They were just making it way too difficult.
And
for my liking.
Were other people in the crew?
And then at that point too, I was getting older, and just you have to at some point get your life in order. if you stay consistent, hitting shit forever and at that level, eventually you will get arrested.
Yeah, for sure. And now you're about 17. When you say get your life in order, what were you thinking at 17 was a life in order? What did that look like for you?
Well, we had moved out, got married, started raising pigeons. We started restoring an old car at that point. We just basically were living normal lives.
Mm-hmm. Were you still in Brooklyn?
Yes.
But in 87, did you stop writing?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. And
just
so,
dead, done.
Yeah. And you told me that you took a break for, how many years was it? Was it 8 years?
It was about 8 years.
So 87 to approximately 95.
95.
Okay. And so throughout all those years, what about Peak? I mean, I could do an interview with Peak, and I hope I can one day. What was he doing as far as graph?
He was doing just as much as me, which is nothing. I think the break was more so for him than for me.
Okay.
He was just, he has a wild side to him. And I think even more so for him, at that path that he was on, with like drinking and drugs and painting at the level he was painting, it was only a matter of time before he ended up dead or in jail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so as his wife, you were watching all of that. Was that, I mean, that must have been a concern to you. And did you help him avoid all of that stuff throughout that break?
I would have to say yes.
Yeah.
I don't know what his opinion would be, but I would say yes. I could be quite annoying.
Well, so throughout all those years, 87 to 95, I'm curious if, I know you had mentioned a couple of times that you didn't see stuff. Were you watching graph during your break? Did you pay attention?
Not really. We did keep in touch with DG over the years. Mm-hmm. So we would see DG. He was still hitting live trains. He was going pretty strong at that point. Mm-hmm. A lot of the writers that Peak originally was robbing before that really took over. Deck DEK took over Vic Crew during that period, put a lot of writers down that were hitting highways, still hitting trains, hitting the streets. So we would see things basically through DG. Mm-hmm. And then it was probably in 95 that DG said, hey, why don't we just do a piece for old time's sake? And we had a friend that lived down the block who in his backyard had this brick wall, and he said, why don't you come paint the wall? And Pete went with DG and they painted, and it's just started up from there.
I'm really curious though, like throughout all those years of the break up to 95, no one had ever said that to you guys. Hey, we got a chill wall right here. Come on and do up on a Sunday. We'll barbecue.
We were so antisocial. We still are. If I talk to a total of 10 writers, that's a lot. Okay.
And throughout that entire break, you mean?
Even now. Mm-hmm. Even now after 30 years of painting. Mm-hmm. I know hundreds. I literally talk, and I'm really being generous with 10.
Yeah, okay.
We really don't talk to writers. Mm-hmm. We don't talk to most people, never mind writers.
And what's that all about? Like, why do you think that you guys are that way? What is it?
We're just antisocial.
Okay.
People, of course, are nothing but fucking headaches.
Okay.
Talk into their life, their drama, their bullshit.
I hear that. Yeah. But so then in 95, DG and Peak go and paint that wall, that chill like brick wall spot, and you said that started. So when Peak decides to maybe come back, you were right there and you were like, yeah, maybe it's time for me as well.
Yeah, well, yes. Mm-hmm. What happened after that was they found a nice spot. It was out in Howard Beach. There was like an abandoned house right on the water and a handball court. And they went and they did the handball court. And when I went to go get photos the next day, we had paint on us, and he had did a tab piece. And automatically I felt the need to like pick up a can and start filling it in because it was just an outline. Nice. And that's where it got full blown after that. PG had been in jail before that. He had just gotten out. So now Peak and PG reunited, and it was just full blown, like overnight. And then what was your new focus of where you were bombing? Because transit was not really happening as much, right, in 95. Where were you guys going? Where were you painting all the time, besides that Howard Beach spot? Howard Beach, and mostly we were doing the Greenpoint factories. Okay. We had the factories all along Williamsburg and along Kent Avenue. So most of it was done there. Yeah. And then from that point, I just started realizing, Lady Pink and Smith had some walls around town. And that's when we realized, you can ask for permission. And I ended up getting the Chocolate Factory, which was a huge factory. The front of the wall was 175 feet. The side wall was over 200 feet. And went in with an old picture of Graf on a train and convinced the guy to give me permission to paint the wall.
And he was convinced. And you then went and did the production.
And then permission work started.
So what year did you do the Chocolate Factory first? Was that 95 as well?
96.
And who was on that very first production on the Chocolate Factory? Do you remember?
Yes. The very first one was Pete, PG, me, who I wasn't even supposed to paint. Pete thought I was very toy, even though it was my spot, didn't want me to paint. PG, if you see the photos, it's pretty funny. PG shrunk down his space and put me dead smack in the middle of him and Pete,
nice.
Which Pete was not happy about. I fucked up his whole photo with my toy pimple right in the middle of him and his boy. So I thought that was just hysterical. Slash painted, DG painted, Sin from Queens painted, Bruce did a piece, SP did a piece. Trying to think. I think that was pretty much it, the first lineup.
That's a hell of a lineup.
But we really didn't know what we were doing, so the wall was just very choppy. It wasn't very uniform. But it was still a nice lineup. Nat painted also. Nat did our spot. And Wee Wee, who writes Pima.
Wee Wee? Who writes Pima?
Yeah, what are you going to do?
I don't know.
And even that, the only reason why this Wee Wee guy, who I didn't know, he turned out to be a nice guy. The only reason why he was even given a spot was because everyone else was carrying their crates of paint. And we saw everyone struggle. And he was the only one. We looked at him, and he had his painted a crate with a rope tied around it and was just dragging it in back of him. And we just thought, that was smart. Like, he's not an idiot.
Yeah.
We'll squeeze him in.
And that was in 96. And I think you told me that your most active years were now, right? Like that 96.
That was it, yeah.
What were
From
the years
that
again?
point on, it was nonstop.
96 to 98? Was that like the...
Yeah, 96, 98, 90, actually until probably 99.
And so can you just tell us a little bit more about that? Like, were you painting every week? How did it go down?
I was painting not only every week, I was basically doing permission spots during the day. So I was doing these murals during the day with this awesome group of painters. At night I was doing tags and throwies. I was doing rollers at night. I was doing blockbusters in broad daylight. I was pretty much doing everything nonstop.
And what was the scene like in New York in 96, at least from what you remember? Was there a lot of that happening? Were a lot of people going all out?
I think that there was more, but I really think that we were the dominating force at that point.
And it was all Vic crew again, right? And TPA.
Vic and TPA. It was just an all-out assault at that point.
Also, you're 26 approximately in 96, right? Yep. And you're doing your thing. Before you had said, "Oh, I got to get my life together," was a thought 10 years earlier when you were 16, 17. Did you feel like now, like you had your life a little bit more solidified, or you were more stable, so now you could do it?
I had a job. We were working. We had our own place. We owned a car. We were pretty much stable. At the same time, when that kicked in, house wasn't getting cleaned as much as it should have been. We started eating out a little more than we once were because I really was just nonstop painting. Like, it was just literally coming home at 8 o'clock at night from doing a mural, sleeping a couple hours, and then going street bombing at night.
Nice.
And then, sleeping for a couple hours and doing a blockbuster or a roller in the morning. And sleeping an hour and getting right back to the mural that we started the day before. So I was pretty much just a full-blown addict at that point. We were racking paint to boot.
Yeah.
At that point, there was no more people hitting you up for cans. So we were just, in between just racking cans by the hundred.
Where were you guys going? Where were your spots to rack back in 96, 97?
We had a nice fucking scam, and normally I wouldn't say how we do, but I'm not stealing paint anymore, so it's okay.
Great.
Basically, we would go to Home Depot, and I looked like a nice, sweet little white girl, and I would go to the rack, and I would have these employees help fill it up. Say I was a teacher doing projects.
Mm-hmm.
They would fill up my wagon, and I would just roll the wagon away, dump it, and then, Nat and PG and Peak, and whoever else was with us would basically just go and eat up the shopping cart.
So wait, so you would push the cart
out with everything. I never took anything out of the store.
Oh, wait. So where would you dump all the paint?
That's a good question. I'm trying to debate it. I'll actually tell you.
Okay.
I would go to the door section where they sell the doors in Home Depot.
Okay.
If you look at their models, they keep the extra doors behind the model door.
Okay.
So if you open those doors, a lot of times there's nothing behind them. So all you do is push the shopping cart right in.
And then there's this entire shopping cart full of paint behind this
full of paint. I would leave the store, go to the car, wait in front. They would all go over. They all went in separate. It wasn't like they were looking for a crew of 5 people.
Okay.
Everyone staggered in. They would load up their backpacks and each walk out of the store.
And this was this was a daily operation for you guys.
Pretty much everything.
Wow. That's a good one. That's a good scam. I've heard a lot.
Fabulous.
And I've done a lot. That's a good one.
We literally were taking so much paint that it was like the trunk is full. There's no more room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that was like Rusto and Krylon, but
it was
kind of boutique European paint had already now been out. Like 94 had, Montana had started, Belton had been around even longer than that. Had you guys gotten your hands yet on any European paint
in
96? No.
I was using garbage. I didn't realize that yellow paint could actually work.
Right.
Krylon paint is horrible.
Right. Yeah. Do you remember your first time getting your hands on a more boutique kind of graph inspired spray paint?
What happened was we then started getting paying jobs. Mm-hmm. And when we would get, people would pay us to do murals, I'd say, listen, you got to buy some paint, and I'd get them to buy the paint. Mm-hmm. And I would just overorder, use the paint on their project, take a little extra, and then, got to experience European paint.
Yeah. And throughout 96, 97 to 99, it sounds like it was just like steady and you just kept going. You just kept bombing. But I think you also told me that you stopped was it around 2000 that you stopped writing again?
I slowed down. Mm-hmm. I don't think I've ever stopped, but I slowed down.
Mm-hmm. And
like there's only so long. We were doing so many rollers, so many blockbusters that it was just going to be a matter of time before. You can think you're eluding the police. Mm-hmm. I don't think you elude the police. I think the police just don't put the effort into getting you.
Yeah.
And I think if you consistently put your name in their face and you consistently get away with shit and you're cocky about it, eventually they're going to show you how small you are. Mm-hmm. And I really don't want cops in my house going through my underwear drawer.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure Peak doesn't either. And so then in around 2000, you start to pull back a little bit. How would you choose when you would paint and when you wouldn't paint? Was it just like, again, going off instinct and you're like, oh, today's a good day or tonight's a good night?
Pretty much. I mean, it came down to opportunity. If we got an invite and it was a good spot, we'd show up. Or if I saw a really nice wall and I was able to get permission, or if we got a phone call, so-and-so is doing something, do you want to come? So it basically came down to a much more, we figured out a balance. Like we can't do this full time. We can't get full blown. That enough. And you start getting up too much. Before you know, you got beef and you got fucking people going over you.
Yeah.
It just started becoming way too involved, way too much drama.
And you mentioned like the good side of being a female writer. Back in the day, they would like give you cans or whatever, help put you up. When it came to beef, like how did you navigate that as a woman in this really masculine community when there would be beef? Like how'd you deal with that?
I tend to like to fight, so for me it was always fun. Okay. Like I enjoyed it. Like people go over and they think you get irritated, and like a lot of people do. They're like, fuck. But I always had the mentality when I painted that as soon as I painted it, I got my photo and I was giving it away. So if it didn't last till the morning, it didn't faze me. And if you went over me, I took it as a compliment. So where some people would get angry, I thought it was pretty funny.
Okay.
And I had no problem with saying, here's where I'm going to be. Got a problem, come down. I tend to enjoy a good fight. And at that point, I thought I could take on half the guys that were fucking with me anyway.
Because I've wondered about that.
And I did. I had some kid that went over me once on the chocolate factory, and I ended up standing there for, I don't know, a week and a half. Every person that came by, you know who this kid is? You know who this kid is? I offered 10 cans of paint. Some girl ends up calling me up like a week later. She said, the guy's in my house.
Oh, wow.
I left work, didn't call anybody, went there by myself and beat the fuck out of him in her kitchen.
Wow.
And then I called people later and said, what the fuck are you doing? You could have been her. I'm like, I wasn't. And I kept telling the kid, hit me back. And his friends were like, dude, don't touch her. She's going to come back with people. And I really wanted him to hit me back so I could really just wail into him. But he just stood there and let me beat the crap out of him.
Wow. Okay, so that's how you dealt with beef. You went and you dealt with it head on.
Yeah, I kind of enjoy it.
Oh, good for you. I'm impressed. What were the early 2000s then like for you? Like if you can just kind of break down like a chunk of the 2000s. It was you would paint here and there, someone would invite you out and you would go out. Were you
pretty much?
Were you a little less passionate about it though?
I think after PG passed away in '99, I kind of think that it just did something to me.
Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, he was such an amazing role model and just such an amazing force that I just think that it just wasn't the same for me. Mm-hmm. Like, it was sad. Like, I remember when he first died, I would try to do pieces, and halfway through, I couldn't even paint. I was just consumed with thoughts of him and remembering times we had, and I would just get way too emotional. So for me, I think that had a lot to do with me not wanting to really paint at the time.
Mm-hmm. And you know, and I my personal experience, I lost a lot of friends within the graph game one way or another throughout the 90s. And you know, I saw it as like I reflected on it and I was like, this could be me. You know, a lot of my buddies got shot and killed. You know, there was a lot of overdose. I had thought that I could just get wrapped up. You know, did you see part of PG's death as maybe, you know, something that could happen to you too? No. Okay. I didn't think that we would suffer the same outcome. Yeah. But it was just, I don't know, like I said, I think when he died, a little piece of me died and unfortunately affected the whole graph shit. Yeah. That, and at that point too, I also, rather than painting, I started spending more time like trying to take his son out and, you know, his stepdaughter and just trying to spend more time with his family, hanging out with his mom, going to the cemetery. My priorities just changed. Mm-hmm. Was there a moment in the 2000s where you had a big flux again of doing a lot of work? No. So I think since from then, I think I was just pretty much consistent. Mm-hmm. I probably, at that point, was doing maybe a wall a month or so. Okay. But I had slowed down on the whole illegal aspect. Okay. It was just getting to be too much. And I just thought if I continue on this road, I'm going to get arrested. Right. And, you know, another thing, and you've mentioned many times how you haven't really taken in other people, but I am interested in how the internet did or did not affect your graph. Like when you first got on, let's just say Facebook or something like that, or Flickr, were you I'm still not on Facebook. I just got a Facebook account literally a month ago. I don't even control it. Okay. I have a friend controlling it, and that's only to raise money for my GoFundMe. Okay. But you do have an Instagram account. Yeah, but you're on Instagram, right? And I am on Instagram for the past 2 years. Okay. Before that, I shunned all social media. And with your Instagram account, or when you got on 2 years ago, what were your thoughts when you saw how much graph is happening sort of worldwide? I had positive and negative. I see a lot of people that I see how many followers they have, and I don't think that they, as Rebs would say, I don't think they paid their dues. Mm. I don't think they really put the work in, but they're great salespeople. Mm-hmm. You ask them for their bio, and they can give you 4 pages of this illustrious career that they've had, where if you ask me, I got nothing to say. I'm not a salesperson. I can't sell myself. I let what I've done speak for itself. So it went both ways. I like the fact that it is so worldwide. I like the fact that you can see so much stuff. But again, I've always spent my life trying not to look at other people's shit and not be influenced by it. Well, and I'll tell you, when it comes to influence, what I'm interested in asking you is that a woman that started doing graffiti in 1984 in New York, you're in a pretty small group. You know, there are not that many human beings on this planet that can say, A, I'm a woman who started doing graffiti in the 80s, and B, a woman who continued to do it. You know, I mean, there's got to be like a handful. So do you have
that
any?
I agree.
Yeah, and do you have any thoughts on that, on like your influence to create possibly other women, other female writers around the world?
I think that here's the thing. I think there's more females out there than we realize.
Absolutely.
I think the thing that separated me from them is you'll have a female that street bomb, but can't do pieces. Don't do pieces. You'll have, you know, a female writer that'll do a roller here and there, but can't do a piece, can't do a throwy. I think I'm one of the few females that no matter what you put me into, I can do it all. Because I think in order to say you're a queen or a diva, you have to be able to do it all. You can't just be like a one-hit wonder, and then in your small little fishbowl think you're something bigger than you are. I think it's, to me personally, I think you have to be doing everything. So I think there's a lot more females out there that are out there. They're just not getting noticed because they just don't have an impact.
Sure. And then there's also a lot of stigma around women as being weak and inferior and less than, and there's a war on women. And so, you know, I think
that's
all
true,
those
but
factors
again,
come in.
that comes down to how these women present themselves. If you're going to get someone in your face and you're going to back down, then they're going to find you as being weak. I've had big dudes step to me and like, Joe, I didn't ask you to pay. Fuck you. I just don't take their shit. And they see right from the get-go. It's not that I think Pete's going to help me because he's nowhere to be found. They see the difference. I'm not going to take your shit. And I've proven that I'm not going to take your shit. I can hold my own. I could probably piece better than you and half your crew.
Nice.
I have more balls than you and half your crew. So I think it's all how you present yourself. If you present yourself like a pussy who's going to back down because someone's in your face, you're going to be a victim. But that I think is going to happen even if you're a dude.
Yeah, I agree.
If you act like a pussy, they're going to victimize you.
Yeah, no, I think that's totally true. And I mean, if I've learned anything today, it's that you have an incredible amount of strength. There's no smooth way, I think, for me to transition to talk about your illness, but it was one of the reasons that we wanted to get you on the podcast as well, is to draw attention to your newest fight. And, you know, I think it's interesting that you said that you were down to fight, and you sure have a fight on your hands now.
That's why I think cancer fucked with the wrong bitch.
Okay, well, I like that.
I don't think that you know, when I went in, my prognosis, unfortunately, was not good. I was misdiagnosed 3 years ago. So, unfortunately, I've had this tumor growing in my chest for 3 years.
Oh, my God.
That was not being treated.
How does that happen? How the fuck does that happen, that a doctor can misdiagnose?
You know something? I ask myself that every day. I went to my doctor. He said, listen, I'm short of breath. I have a cough. Granted, I was smoking a lot of weed at the time, so we kept attributing the cough to that I smoked a lot of weed.
Okay.
But I went through a 3-year period where I didn't smoke, and the cough wasn't going away.
And so 3 years ago, you were misdiagnosed.
EKG, he tested my heart, he did blood work. He never ordered a chest X-ray. You would think would be the first thing you would do.
Yeah, you would think, right? Like I'm really like baffled and kind of just angry thinking about that. When were you then properly diagnosed?
I finally got diagnosed June of this year, June of 2016.
June of 2016, and so then and they told you it was stage 3 lung cancer.
I'm stage 3. It spread to my lymph nodes on both sides, so unfortunately it's inoperable. Which kind of sucks.
And so you're now traveling back and forth from Mexico for treatment, correct?
Yes.
Can you tell us why you go to Mexico for the treatment?
Because that country fucking sucks. Hate to curse. Well, I do. I like to curse, but
curse all you want. We have the explicit rating here.
Our country is horrible.
Yeah.
They inflict rules. There are hospitals and doctors that have known that certain things. I'll give you an example. B17 is made from a bitter apricot seed. What B17 does is it breaks the outer shell around the cancer cells so that your body will recognize the cancer and be able to fight it. Our country does not think we should have this. it's all about money.
Of course.
They'd rather you go for radiation and chemo,
and
which both of which will kill you.
Right. Yeah. So
and they don't want you to know these natural things.
Yeah.
Mistletoe, literally mistletoe that you hang at Christmas time, is known to reduce the size of tumors. Cannabis oil reduces the size of tumors. They will not allow you to have these things in this country.
So then you are now having to spend money. I presume it's not covered by insurance for you to fly to Mexico.
Not a cent.
Yeah. Yeah. And so how many times have you gone to Mexico for your treatments?
I've now gone to Mexico twice.
Okay. And you're going again at the end of this month?
I'm going again now next month.
Okay.
And like I said, when I go to Mexico, I also get vaccines that are made from my own blood. They purify it. They put stuff in it so that when I re-inject it in myself every week, it helps my immune system, which is why I don't think that I've gotten as sick as I should.
Yeah.
The cancer has not spread since I've been doing this. The tumor got a little bigger at first, but it has neutralized, so it's not getting any bigger.
Thank God.
Which to me are all positive.
Yes, absolutely.
But
it's
you know, fucking expensive.
A good friend of mine is he has cancer right now, and we've talked a bit about that. Every single day, people beat cancer when they're told they're not going to, right? It's like this fucking horrible, magical thing. It's like you can kill it. There's this other argument that we create our own cancers, so we have the ability to kill them.
Yes. Stress will fuck with you every time.
Right.
When your body's stressing, it breaks down, your immune system doesn't kick in.
Right.
So when you're stressing about things, it's going to have a negative effect. When you're positive and you really truly believe something's going to help you, it truly does help you. So I think your body does follow your mind quite a bit.
I agree. And listen, I think that we want to help you. And I think so. What can you tell us all the information about your GoFundMe and any other way that people can contribute to that to help out?
Well, you can go to my Instagram, which is Diva Vandals in Control, underscores between each word.
Okay, so Diva _Vandals_in_control.
Control. You got it.
Okay. And from there, the link in your bio has the link right to your GoFundMe?
Right to my GoFund.
Are there any other ways that people can support you, contribute to what you're doing, or just, I don't know, send you a message to tell you, you know, good luck and we got your back?
Yeah. The message is not for nothing. The money is necessary.
Right.
But the well wishes and like the support that I've been getting has just been, I mean, I cry every day. I'm like a big baby now. That is just to me so overwhelming how many people have been touched by this disease and how many people I actually have pulling for me.
Yeah.
And again, I painted all these years. I never did it to impress anyone else. I never did it thinking I was having an impact. And to have so many people come forward to say what an impact they've had on them, to me is just absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And it changed my whole outlook on humans. Like people are decent.
I agree. And I also think that this writing community that we're a part of is pretty decent, even though there's a lot of facades. At the heart, I think that most writers they care about other writers. And so I think that's evident by the Scrapyard show.
The funny part to me is that it's been the writers that I haven't always gotten along with or didn't know or have even a point of beef with that have actually come forward more than people that should be there for me.
Interesting. Well, and you know, people come full circle at different times, and maybe those guys, it's just their time. And listen, we have taken enough of your time, and it's been amazing to hear all your stories and to be able to get all of this on record so that it's not forgotten. And so, yeah, I want to thank you again so much for taking the time out of your day.
Thank you. I really appreciate that you're doing this. I love what you're doing, that you're documenting all this for future generations. You know, it's the one big piece of information that Revs gave me early on. He basically said, no matter how much you paint or how much you do, if it's not documented, at some point it will be as if it never existed.
That's exactly right.
Because what we do is very short-lived.
Yeah.
You know, it gets painted over, gets rolled over. A month later, a year later, no one knows you did it.
Yeah.
So unless things get documented, it's all for nothing.
Yeah, and like back to that, like maybe a final thought is like, you know, Koch thought that he was going to just clean off the trains and everybody would just forget about it. It would go away, and instead, it's turned into this global phenomenon that's out of control. And I think it was intended to be out of control. It was intended to be global, and so yeah.
Well, I think it's contagious. It's totally just absolutely infectious.
Yeah.
You know, you see other people doing it. Yeah, and what he did was he might have cleaned up the drains, but instead he just made the streets.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, a totally different
And from the New York streets, it spread throughout the country and now the entire world. Listen, again, can't thank you enough. And everybody listening, I hope you get a chance to go check out her page and go to that GoFundMe page and drop $1, drop $1 million, drop whatever you can to support her in her recovery. And
thank you so much.